How many commercials have you watched that have actually inspired you to buy a product? Probably not that many. Okay, but how many products have you bought because a friend recommended them to you? We trust people that we can relate to, and that's the foundation of docu-style filmmaking. Viewers are drawn to stories about real people, and docu-style filmmaking lets real people shine. So in this video, I want to tell you how I use docu-style filmmaking for this commercial. So I made this video recently for a local company that provides studio space for artists. And the goal for this video was to share what this company does. And I decided to do that by telling the story of one artist. Sarita is a fashion designer who has rented studio space from this company for years now. In this commercial, we watch her create a skirt from idea to finished product. And in the meantime, she talks about her creative process and, more importantly, what she loves about the company that she rents her studio from. Okay, so what is docu-style filmmaking? Well, basically, it's applying a documentary approach and style to a non-documentary video. Let's dig into that definition a little bit further. A documentary approach and style means that you're telling a story about real people. And to tell your story, you'll usually use an interview and some B-roll. In this piece, we have the sit-down interview of Sarita in her studio surrounded by her fashion pieces. And the B-roll was her creating one of those pieces. For me, I like to use docu-style filmmaking for a few reasons. First of all, viewers are always drawn to stories about real people. There's a level of authenticity that you can achieve with docu-style that you can't necessarily get with other forms of filmmaking. Actors are great, but when people are deciding whether or not they're going to buy a product, hearing it from real people makes a big difference. It's why in a lot of commercials you'll see the disclaimer at the bottom that says, "Real people, not paid actors." The second reason I often use the docu-style is because it's easier. It's what I as a filmmaker am more comfortable with. It's easier for the people who appear in the videos to just be themselves instead of having to act out a role. And for clients, it's often cheaper because there's just less overhead. So now let's talk about this project specifically. In this video, I wanted to capture Sarita's creative process. I told her this with the expectation that she would kind of fake it. Maybe draw a mock-up design, cut some old pieces of fabric, and then sew some stuff together. But she said, I think I can actually make a piece of clothing for this. And that's what she did. The skirt that you see at the end of the video is the same one she's sketching at the beginning of it. I was just super blown away by that, and she made my job so easy because all I had to do was film her doing her thing. So I made sure to get plenty of B-roll. And as always, I had planned some shots ahead of time. My general advice is to always shoot more than you think you need. Always. Because you never want to get in the edit bay and realize that you're missing shots. Another thing I had planned out was the interview setup. Now, in a lot of my other work, I use pretty dramatic lighting. In this example from that Casio spec ad I did, you can see that we have a strong key light, a strong backlight, and basically no fill. So that means that there's a lot of contrast on the shadow side of our subject's face. But high contrast lighting was not going to work for this piece. I wanted to give a very warm and inviting feel, so instead I opted for high key lighting. That means that our interview setup would result in a brighter image overall, with much less shadow on our subject's face. I really wanted to show Sarita in her environment. Her studio space has so much life to it, and this video is about the studio spaces that this company provides. So brightening up the whole image let us see our subject and her environment in the same frame. Now, because this is not a scripted commercial, the interview was going to be the backbone of this entire video. So I have a couple of interview tips if you're going to try to make a docu-style commercial. I always try to keep my interviews under 30 minutes. Especially if I'm shooting in one day, I know that my subject's going to be tired out by the end of the shoot. I always want to make people sound good and look good, so keep your interview short and sweet. Hone in on questions that you think will bring out responses that you can use in the final video. For commercial work, your top priority is to share your client's message. So ask questions that are going to get your subject to talk about that message. So to give an example, this piece was about the benefits of having a studio at this company. So I asked Sarita a lot of questions about what she liked about having a studio there. For example, what's it like to be in a community of artists here? What are the benefits to having a workspace that's separate from your living space? But you can't just ask questions about the company's message. Remember, the benefit of docu-style filmmaking is that it's about real people. We want to let our subjects' personalities shine through. So ask those personal questions. I knew I was going to include footage of Sarita creating a skirt in this piece. So I asked her questions about her creative process. Where do your ideas come from? What inspires you? What are the steps between coming up with an idea and holding up a finished product? These are usually the easiest questions for your participant to answer because they're just telling you about what they do. So once I'd felt like I'd gotten enough answers about the company's message, as well as Sarita herself, it was time for the edit. When I got home, I loaded the interview footage into my timeline and started picking out sound bites. My advice here, refine, refine, refine. I only had 2 minutes to tell this story. That meant I had to be very selective with which sound bites would make it into the final video. I found that counterintuitively, for these kind of pieces, less is more. You don't need your participant to be talking throughout the entire video. It's perfectly fine for there to be gaps between sound bites. Your viewer can fill in those gaps based off the B-roll, music, sound effects, etc. that you're playing for them. It's really just about getting to the core emotions and message of your video. In this piece, the message that really shone through was personal autonomy. That's something that Sarita tries to give her clients through her work, and it's also the thing she loves the most about renting a studio from this company. She's able to use her studio space how she wants, and she can customize it so that it best serves her.
You can come in and you can curate the space and you can use it and you can manipulate it, and there's room for growth here.
Now that theme is great because it's on message for the brand and it's also her personal truth. Docu-Style storytelling lets you combine those two. I love making videos in this style because it lets me help clients by doing what I'm good at, documentary storytelling. Using a documentary style lets the personality of our subject shine through. We're not just feeding people lines to read off of a teleprompter. We're letting people exist in their natural element and allowing them the space to share their world with us. Remember, viewers are drawn to stories about real people, and brands can use that to their advantage with docu-style videos. So thanks for watching, and go check out the original video if you haven't seen it already. Got more videos in the works, so stay tuned.